All right, and thank you so much for joining the Sun's Solar Panel Podcast, or if you're watching on the YouTube version along with us right now, we really do appreciate you. No Greg Esposito today. He is gone in Hawaii. Don't worry, he'll be back next week, but we do have one of my favorite people on the
Thank
planet,
you.
Mr. Dave King. How's it going, buddy?
Woohoo! I made it to his favorite people on the planet list.
Listen, so coming up later on the podcast version of this is an interview that you just did with John Bloom. How'd that go?
Yeah, so John Bloom is a big-time radio voice and sometimes TV voice for the Phoenix Suns. He backs up Al McCoy a lot on the radio and TV. And he and I talked about the draft. He gave his feedback on the draft, his opinion on folks who were mad at him after hearing his opinion on the draft on social media. And he gave us some of his thoughts on that and what he's looking forward to next year. It's a really great interview. Got about 20 minutes of that with John Bloom. For diehard Suns fans or anyone who's watched TV or listened to the radio broadcast, you know exactly who I'm talking about. The guy has worked for the Suns for many, many years. He sometimes labels himself as a homer, and all the time that's true. So you're going to hear some positive Suns thoughts from John Bloom.
And I do want to apologize. We do have Jim on the YouTube saying everything is echoing. And I've been having some mic problems. If you've been tuning into the show for a while, you know that that's the truth. So I'm using a backup mic today. I hope to have it fixed by next week. So apologies for that. Looking forward to the John Bloom interview, but this is very important. I'm really excited. We are getting ready for Sun Summer League, and ourselves here at the Solar Panel, along with Bright Side of the Sun and the Fanning the Flames podcast, are organizing a get-together in Phoenix. This is going to be Saturday, July 6th. It is at the Mirage Hotel at the Still Crafts and Drafts and Eats bar. If you guys want to RSVP, we'd really appreciate it. So we have an idea of about how large of a reservation to make. Just go on our Facebook page, the events there, and then you can RSVP. But it'll be fun to be out in Vegas and party with you guys.
What time do we have that starting at, Tim?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock. All right.
Are you going to get lit? Are you going to get lit?
You know, my level of lit's a little different than probably your level of lit, but I'll be there.
All right, Sun Talk. So, hey, Dave, give me your thoughts on the draft. You were not on the show that Greg and I recorded. We gave our immediate reaction. I was a bit more positive than he was, but, you know, let's get yours.
Greg seemed like he was echoing the worst of Suns fans. And you know what? It's probably because he spent a little bit of time on Twitter during the draft. Man, look, the draft was unexpected. But I'm just going to give my bottom line output. The bottom line output is that the Phoenix, the GM, James Jones, has been saying for a whole year what he's going to do. And he actually did what he said he was going to do. And now people are unhappy about that. He's done with the 19-year-old high draft picks that you have to start for years before they get good and know how to win games. He's all in on the older guys, and he wants 22 to 26 to 28 and 29-year guys who know how to play the game of basketball. So the Suns on draft night came out of the draft with a very solid backup center in Aaron Baines, who they've said they are bringing in next season and to back up DeAndre Ayton. And the dude is going to make Ayton tougher, just like PJ Tucker made Devin Booker tougher. Devin Booker came out of the college as a finesse player, and but being guarded by PJ Tucker in practice for a couple of years made him a lot tougher. And they talked about that, and that really worked for Booker. Let's hope someone like that can do that for DeAndre Ayton. Aaron Baines has been a very effective player. They also have a starting caliber power forward that came out of this and not out of the draft, but he's still only 24, 25 years old, Dario Saric. And so the Suns suddenly have the power forward that they've been wanting for a while. The dude, yes, he's only under contract for one more year as a restricted free agent, but that's like acquiring Kelly Oubre. So basically they did it Kelly Oubre all over again with Dario Saric at power forward. Cam Johnson, you know what? Cam Johnson was not a great pick at number 11. We know this. Nobody is disputing that. I think what James Jones's point of view is, well, not a great pick at 11. He was a good first-round pick. What James Jones is disputing probably is that it doesn't matter how you got the guys on the roster. If they contribute to winning games, you're going to be happy they're on the roster. And Cam Johnson will probably have a 10-year career, assuming his hips hold up, a 10-year career or more as a shooter in a rotation for a very good team. And that's, if you get that, you get that. Ty Jerome, he sure looks like a Steve Blake to me, and Steve Blake's a new assistant coach for the Phoenix Suns. And I always hated Steve Blake because he was so damn effective and efficient. He made all the right plays and made all the right passes and made the big shots. I really liked watching Steve Blake play as long as he wasn't beating my team. And I feel like Ty Jerome is very much that same kind of player. So I'm not negative about how the draft came out. Yes, the Suns did not get a Jarrett Culver, who could in a couple of years become a very good player. They did not get a Brandon Clark, who in a couple of years could be a very good player. What they got is guys who this year will be pretty good. They have lower ceilings, but they have higher floors.
It's funny. So we did our live reaction right after the draft, and it was by far our most watched YouTube episode so far, close to like 3,000 people. And it got way more downvotes than it normally gets. So I was like, what the hell is going on?
And then you listen to Greg.
Apparently there are a lot of Cam Johnson fans out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of just Suns fans. People, when you're a fan of a team, you're going to talk yourself into just about anything until they actually do it on the court. And the thing is, the Suns have come out of the last several drafts with B or higher grades, and they've won fewer games every goddamn year. So how about we don't worry about the draft grades and we worry about the team that's on the court next year? And we won't know. This could be the worst summer of Suns history. This could be the beginning of the next era of Suns history. We won't know this until November.
It's funny too. I was thinking, it was, what was it? 3, 4, 5 episodes ago, we were talking about who would be the type of, I think I asked you, who would be the type of center that you would want to put next to DeAndre Ayton. And I think the first name you said was Aaron Baines.
The dude is going to be perfect. I did a Q&A with Jeff Clark, who runs Celtics blog. He's been running Celtics blog for a lot longer than I've run Bright Side of the Sun. Love the guy. They love Aaron Baines. And I asked him specific questions about Aaron Baines being a good practice player, locker room guy, all that. They say the dude is top notch, and he is going to bang against DeAndre Ayton in practice every single day and make the dude tougher.
Bicentennial Kid on the YouTube chat says, will the Suns finally get rid of Josh Jackson and Dragan Bender?
Well, I tell you what, draft night, basically they replaced Dragan Bender with Dario Saric. There's no way Dragan Bender comes back to this team. I really think with Cam Johnson in the rotation on the wings, because the dude, he's too skinny to be a power forward. You can slot him there. I tell you what, if you put Cam Johnson at power forward, he's likely to get more rebounds than TJ Warren or Kelly Oubre or Mikal Bridges would ever get. But that's only going to be 5 or 6 instead of 3 or 4. Cam Johnson is not a power forward. He's as much a power forward as anybody the Suns put there last year, where really Cam Johnson is on the wing. And where I'm going with this is he basically replaced Josh Jackson in the rotation. I don't think there's any way Josh Jackson plays another game for the Phoenix Suns.
Really? Not one more game?
I don't think there's any way. There's no way the dude's coming back to Summer League because he shit the bed last year, shooting literally 24% from the field in Summer League last year. It's almost impossible to shoot 24% from the field in a Summer League game where nobody plays defense.
Steven on the YouTube chat, he actually directed this question to me, but I'm going to direct it to you, Dave. Is Ty Jerome the American version of Steve Nash?
No. Ty Jerome is not Steve Nash. Please, people, stop trying to make the under-athletic white guy your next Steve Nash just because you're a Phoenix Suns fan. Ty Jerome is more like I mentioned it earlier. He's more like Steve Blake. He's hopefully better than Luke Ridnour, if we're going to be racist like that a little bit, whitest.
He was sneaky good. Like there was a time.
There was a lot of sneaky goods. So Ty Jerome is better than David Stockton, who's another sneaky, people thought David Stockton was going to have a good career. And really, I'm sorry, I'm profiling on the white point guards, but basically Ty Jerome is the dude. Okay, let's go Fred VanVleet. Fred VanVleet came out of college And Jalen Brunson last year, Fred Van Vliet 3 years ago, Jalen Brunson last year, a couple of other guys have come out of college as the point guard who led their team to the Final Four of the national championship, was under athletic, was not really profiling as a great NBA player, and are now really good second string guys and part-time starters. And people really wanted Fred VanVleet last summer for the Phoenix Suns as a restricted free agent. That's the kind of guy Ty Jerome is. Ty Jerome tries hard on defense, plays really smart, is an excellent pick and roll point guard. He can shoot, he can pass, he can do a lot of things. He's not going to be a star, but he's going to be a very good player. And if we're lucky, he'll be like a Jalen Brunson or a Fred VanVleet.
Well, that's one thing you can take away from the Suns draft night moves is that they were clearly targeting shooting from basically every position except for the backup big. And Saric, we went over this on the last episode, but just comparing rebound percentages.
Even Aaron Baines shot 35% on threes.
How many did he take? 3?
No, he took a few.
The rebounding is going to get better with Saric. Saric actually had a quote. He said, "I don't feel like I got a fair shot in Minnesota, and I'm really expecting that now for Phoenix."
Because he knows Monty Williams. Monty Williams was on the Sixers bench, I think, for just last season. I forgot to look this up before the podcast today, so sorry if I'm wrong. And so he got about half a season of Dario Saric in his rotation before Saric got traded for Jimmy Butler. And really, that was almost a net neutral trade for the Sixers. I know people that you want the stars on your team, but they ended up almost too many eat first players that didn't quite work out as often as they hoped. But Dario Saric and Robert Covington were really two of the guys who really helped the Sixers become a better team the year before last. And he did not get a great shot in Minnesota. I'm not exactly sure why. And I really hope he does get a good shot in Phoenix because Saric is just 25 and he's on a great contract. He'll be a restricted free agent next summer. So if he doesn't work out, let him go. If he does work out, re-sign him, just like you're doing with Kelly Oubre.
I was told that he didn't fit the system.
Okay. Well, Monty Williams saw the system he fit into in Philadelphia. So we can only hope, because they acquired Saric, Monty Williams must like Saric, and we can only hope that he's going to work an offense that makes Saric good. Saric is a really good passer. He's a really smart, heady front court player. He can rebound a bit. He can defend enough to make your defense not embarrassing. He's not a good rim protector, but he's a heck of a three-point shooter, and he can actually make plays off the dribble too.
He's an underrated defender for sure. He's a bit of a streaky shooter. He can go, a couple of weeks really without being able to make anything, and then a couple of weeks where he's making everything. But what I like about him is that he is a good defender. And like I said on the last episode, at this point for the Suns, I'm just happy that they came out of the draft filling a need on the roster. It wasn't point guard, and yes, that was more important, and hopefully they'll address that. But they had 2 holes on the roster, and they filled one of them.
Yeah, and they still may target another kind of guy that just plays defense first and offense less, maybe an Al-Farouq Amino in free agency. But if you don't get Al-Farouq Amino and you do get a point guard that wants your $20 million in space that you can create if you want to, and that guy wants all the money, so you don't have money left for a good power forward, well, guess what? You've already got him. You've got Dario Saric, who can start next year. If you sign an Al-Farouq Amino, if you sign a Thaddeus Young from Indiana, then you start that guy and have Saric come off the bench, but he'll still be very good for the team.
So let's talk about Tyler Johnson. He opted in.
Yeah, after the draft, I thought that was interesting. The timing of him opting in, it was all up to him. It was on his own timing. He could do it whenever he wants. Every day you hear about a new player opting into their 2019-20 contract. It's interesting. Of course, he wasn't going to put $19 million on the table and say, nah, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do okay in free agency. He's not going to say that. So, of course, he's going to take that $19 million. Now it's up to the Suns on what they're going to do with it. You can waive stretch him. and spread that 19 million over 3 years and basically create another 12 million in cap space. The Suns right now, as of now, with their roster, are likely to have $13 million in cap space, which won't be enough for a big free agent or two mid-level free agents. So you have to create space somewhere else. That's either dumping Josh Jackson on another team who will absorb his contract, or it's just simply releasing Tyler Johnson and stretching him and create another 12 million. So now you're up to 25 million. Or you can do both and get over 30.
So, are you able to pull up the Suns cap sheet?
Yep. Yes.
So pull that up just because I'm doing the YouTube thing. It's a little bit hard for me with my screens. Let's go ahead and let's reset the cap situation for the Suns. Reset who is currently on the roster, as well as the players that the Suns have options to not be on the roster without having to make a trade to make that happen.
Sure. Okay. Well, let me just go through the depth chart real quick. Right now, the Suns actually have 5 nominal point guards on their roster. None of them are starting quality. But you start with Tyler Johnson, who we just talked about. You got Ty Jerome and Jalen LeCue, who both have guaranteed contracts, will have guaranteed contracts in terms of Ty Jerome. He hasn't signed yet, but for 2 years. You've got Elie Okobo and DeAnthony Melton, who only have 1 guaranteed year left each. Elie Okobo has 2 team options after that. DeAnthony Melton does not. So it looks like you've replaced the Okobo-Melton combo with a Jerome LeCue combo. At shooting guard, you've got Devin Booker. He's pretty much by himself there. At small forward, you've got Kelly Oubre as a restricted free agent. All signs point to him re-signing with the Suns. It's probably, in my book, a 95% chance he's re-signing with the Suns. You got Mikal Bridges. You currently have Josh Jackson, and you have Cam Johnson. So Mikal and Cam, definitely they're keeping. Kelly Oubre, they're almost definitely keeping. So that means Josh Jackson is on his way out. He only has 1 guaranteed year left at $7 million. He's got a team option for almost $9 million for 2020-21 season. And it's right now, it's pretty likely that won't get picked up. At power forward, you have Dario Saric, who's under contract for 1 more year. They just acquired him, so of course they're going to keep him. And at center, you have DeAndre Ayton and Aaron Baines. Baines has 1 year left. DeAndre Ayton, of course, is going to be here a while. So that's really the roster. The fungible parts are Okobo, Melton, and Jackson. And Tyler Johnson.
And let's talk about the cap.
So with the cap, the Suns right now, if you don't count, now I did not mention Richaun Holmes, because if you've got Aaron Baines as your backup center, you don't want Richaun Holmes coming back, or you don't need him coming back. So assuming the Suns don't bring Richaun Holmes back, assuming they also remove or renounce their free agent rights to Troy Daniels, Jamal Crawford, and Jimmer Fredette as well, and assuming you don't even have Ray Spalding on your cap, right now he's got a non-guaranteed contract for next year. Assuming all those things, but keeping Kelly Oubre's cap hold, the Suns have $13 million to spend in free agency. That's before any more further moves to clear cap space.
All right.
So it's $13 million.
Right. But they can, so basically the Suns need to get a max spot. You stretch Tyler, you trade Jackson and Okobo or Melton, and you have max space.
Exactly. You can simply, without getting any other team to agree to anything, the Suns can stretch Tyler Johnson, and they can get up to $25 million at the blink of an eye.
Jake Kuntz, I apologize if I butchered your last name there, buddy. He says on the YouTube chat that it would take at least a first-round pick to trade Josh Jackson. Do you agree?
I don't know. Certainly, the Suns are not going to give up any more first-round picks. They gave up the Milwaukee pick to get Ty Jerome and Aaron Baines. They don't have any. The only picks they've got left are high firsts and high seconds, likely coming up in the future. They're not going to trade a high first. So there's no way the Suns are going to include Josh Jackson. What was suggested on the Zach Lowe and Bobby Marks podcast yesterday that I think is very true, that teams, once they strike out in free agency, there's more than 10 teams with $20+ million in cap space. That doesn't even include the Suns, who we just talked about can easily get to 25. when people run out of players that they want to sign off the free agent market, then teams will be more willing to absorb Josh Jackson to give a 21-year-old kid a second chance at a great career. So I really think Josh Jackson will probably be on the roster on the first day of free agency, but he won't be on the roster by the end of July.
Fair. So
And it won't take a first-round pick to get rid of him. I think it'll be pretty easy to actually do some kind of value trade, small value trade, like for another failed high pick, just a couple of teams swapping. So I'm not sure that's actually Josh Jackson is an easy cap clearing move. I really think the cap clearing move would be Tyler Johnson is about it, or just literally trading one of the guys you thought you were going to keep.
Feels Bradman TV on YouTube chimed in with what I think is a pretty good point. And he said, once teams miss out on free agents, though, the Suns will have missed their chance on free agents as well.
Oh, sure. That's why I'm saying you probably cannot count Josh Jackson's $7 million for next year as free agent money, because he'll still be on the roster by the time those guys are wanting to sign contracts. The only thing you really can do without another team agreeing to something to absorb the free agent money is to release Tyler Johnson.
Who do you think was better, Archie Goodwin or Josh Jackson?
You know what? I've talked about this for 2 years on this podcast, and you know it. They are like mirror images of each other. They're that Spider-Man meme of the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. Yes, nobody wanted to believe me, but what?
Who's been better, though?
Who's been better?
Yeah. Who would you rather have on the Suns roster?
I'd actually still rather have Josh Jackson, but if you actually pull up all their stats, 100% the same. If you look at them on the court, 100% the same. Neither can finish in contract. They all look for They both looked for contract in the paint and barely finished what they were putting up there.
Yeah, Josh Jackson. He has a way of. He doesn't understand geometry and
physics, anything.
No, I'm serious though, because a lot of basketball is geometry, and he likes to take these weird shots off the glass, but he's not getting the ball on the glass where it needs to go to get in the hoop. And it's the weirdest thing because it looks like me playing pickup.
Yeah, I know. His scary bad touch in the rim. I mean, there is no such thing as a floater in Josh Jackson's book. It's a howitzer.
Tiger Scorpio said losing TJ hurt, and I'm still confused. Dude, TJ Warren, we haven't talked about it enough, but he has been one of my favorite Suns players now for a while. And I always just really, even that he was a sieve on defense. He didn't pass the ball. There were things about his game that didn't work with what the Suns were trying to do. And it became very clear this year that he wasn't a good fit with this particular roster. But I am really sad to see him go.
I'm not. I'm sorry. I've got to admit it. I don't know how open I've been about this over the last couple of years. Some people will say I've hated on him for years. Others will say they thought I liked him. TJ Warren is a nice guy, though he had really thin skin. He was terrible in interviews, and he really distrusted media. He's an offensive player, but he doesn't take the shots you want him to take. And you know what? The Suns are bringing in smart basketball players right now. They're bringing in Ty Jerome. They're bringing in Dario Saric. They're guys like that who are – it's going to be – you guys are going to be amazed at how much less you hear the Suns after a game go, someone forgot to play. Well, guess what? It's TJ Warren who was forgetting plays more often than not. It was TJ Warren who was guarding the wrong guy, making the wrong switch. He would forget a play right after timeout. And I'm not saying he's not smart. He's definitely smart. But TJ Warren did not naturally want to play in a system. He's not a natural system guy. The best shots he took last year were catch and shoot threes, and he tried to take fewer and fewer of them as the season went on. And then he, for some reason, wouldn't even come back at the end of the year just to take his final 5 attempts so he can get a $250,000 bonus. So behind the scenes, the Suns had a bad relationship with TJ Warren that they probably perpetuated on their own. On the court, though, I find it funny that people are in love with TJ Warren, but they hate the idea of Cam Johnson. Both guys only bring one thing to the team, which is scoring.
I don't know enough about Cam Johnson.
Well, Cam Johnson's a great catch and shooter. If you looked at the way Klay Thompson plays on offense, not defense, but the way Klay Thompson plays on offense for Golden State, that's Cam Johnson's game, where he runs off screen, he runs off double screens, run through, and he's 6'9" with a 6'10" wingspan, so he doesn't get blocked. So he's like a Klay Thompson who's 6'8" himself. That's the only comparison to Klay Thompson. I'm not saying Cam Johnson is Klay Thompson. Please, people, don't tell me I'd said that, because all I said was the way he catches and shoots and gets the ball off his shot so quickly. He's like a 6'10". Let's do better. Let's make it a little bit more realistic. He's Troy Daniels at 6'10". Let's do that.
I've watched highlight videos. I watched the scouting videos that people put out, but I did not see him actually play in college. So before we get John Bloom on and wrap this up, a couple things that we want to talk about. One is, if you feel like you get a lot out of this show, out of this podcast, and you want to support, we'd really appreciate you. Just look at the show notes below or in the description below. There's a support the podcast button where you can make a $1 monthly donation. It's super easy. It really does go a long way. It might even be able to get me a new mic that doesn't sound like garbage here pretty soon. And I do want to thank Brian Stewart so much for being a subscriber of the show.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. You're a big fan and big supporter all around.
And next up, before we get to John Bloom, there are competing storylines with whether or not the Suns are interested in D'Angelo Russell. And it's you have Gambo, who
let's ask Gambo.
He's really digging his heels in on this one. The D'Angelo Russell is not a target for this team, but you have other guys such as Zach Lowe saying that the Suns have openly coveted D'Angelo Russell. There's the obvious ties to Devin Booker and their friendship that make it seem like a lot of sense. Who do we believe?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I tell you what, nobody knew it was going to happen on draft night, right? Nobody plugged in, including Gambo, had any idea the Suns thought Cam Johnson would be somebody they should draft.
Well,
nobody thought Ty Jerome was someone they should draft. What's that?
The Suns might not have either.
Right. So to say that what I'm saying is to say that the Suns know what they're going to do on July 6th or July 1st, really. July 6th being the first day of the league year, people can actually sign contracts. July 1 being, or actually June 30th at 6 p.m. our time, I believe. 6 p.m. Eastern, so 3 p.m. Arizona time. Free agents can start agreeing to contracts. I don't think the Suns know who is going to say yes to them. I believe they're going to reach out to D'Angelo Russell and they're going to see what his interest is. And if he goes, yep, Devin and I have been talking about this for months, sign me up, the Suns will sign him.
All right. I like it. But
I actually personally think Malcolm Brogdon is a better play than D'Angelo Russell for this team and the makeup of the team and what they need.
Dude, I like Malcolm Brogdon. I realize what he brings to the court, but the dude is not a point guard. He's just not.
His career assist average is 3. 3 a game.
He's just not. He's a really good off-ball secondary ball handler on a team, and a team needs a point guard. So I like him, but I do not think that he's a good fit on this team. It's kind of like Marcus Smart, right? Like Marcus Smart is a great player and he brings a lot to the table. Being a point guard or playing that lead guard role isn't exactly the thing that he's bringing to the table. And that's kind of how I feel about Malcolm Brogdon. I challenge anybody to tell me one time they've actually seen him make an assist.
So you're a D'Lo fan?
No, I'm not. I don't think D'Lo is perfect, but I also don't think that you're going to be able to get Chris Paul in his prime right now. So no matter
nobody's getting Chris Paul in his prime.
Well, you know what I mean? No matter who they get, it's going to be a player that has a fault of some sort, and then it's just deciding which fault is the fault to go with, right?
What if Kyrie does an about face and says, "I'll sign in Phoenix"?
No, fuck no. I'm not about Kyrie Irving, man. I'm not. I realize that he hit a big shot in one game, but I do not think that he's good for the culture. I do not think that he's a winning player. I do not think that his effort is there. I do not think that he's good for the locker room. not a Kyrie guy. I do not want Kyrie on this team. This team already has enough problems. They don't need a star that thinks he's better than he is.
So do you have a favorite? I mean, a favorite possible target for the Suns this summer? Rubio?
I would go up and down if they got Rubio. And I realized the issue with shooting that would bring and why a lot of people don't want Rubio. I think Rubio would be a pretty good fit.
He's definitely out of Utah because they got Mike Conley now.
Right, but he also doesn't want to play for a rebuilding team.
True.
So it's, one of those things, would he even do it? But then again, how many good contending teams are looking for a point guard, and would Rubio be willing to be the backup point guard for a good team? I don't know.
Would you want Patrick Beverley at $14 million a year?
For how many years?
Well, probably 4.
No.
So a bunch of teams I think are going to offer Patrick Beverley their mid-level because the playoff teams are the ones who don't have the cap space. And then he's going to have to decide between $9 million a year for a playoff team that he might just come off the bench for, or $13-14 million a year from a couple of probably offers he's getting from non-playoff teams. And really, those guys grab the money. So I really think he's going to end up probably with the Bulls at this point, although they just took Kobe White, so maybe not.
I wouldn't mind him on like a 2-year. And that's the thing about a lot of these guards is, would you want them on a 4-year? Like, I wouldn't want Malcolm Brogdon on a 4-year more than I would want Corey Joseph on a 4-year. I'd also want Rubio on a 4-year.
So you want me to give Suns fans a heart attack right now?
Oh my God.
Darren, do you need another one? All right, let me say this. Let me just throw this out. In next year's draft, the 2020 NBA draft, the current big board on ESPN, who are the Draft Express guys who've been dialed in forever, they have 4 point guards in the top 7 picks. So next year is another point guard year. So do you want a stopgap and wait until next year to get your point guard of the future?
So the Suns, if you look at the first round point guards they have taken since 2000, Kendall Marshall,
Ty Ellis, Ennis,
Tyler Ennis, and now this Jerome kid,
Ty Jerome.
I don't want the Suns drafting a point guard.
Well, they haven't taken one at the top. Well, Kendall Marshall was what, 12 or 13?
He was high. He was fairly high up there. He was
12 or 13, and then Tyler Ennis was the famous 24 that year. Drafted 18th. He was drafted 18th, and now you've got 24th in Ty Jerome. So if you want to take one in the top 5, he'll be a good point guard. Maybe we just wait until next year to fill the point guard hole. Why don't we just go with Tyler Johnson for a year?
Jesus. 10 years, man. This team's got to get better. So we've been recording for a while. We do need to go and get to the John Bloom interview so that this episode is not an hour and 20 minutes. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining on YouTube. We're going to have John Bloom coming up next if you are listening to the podcast version of this. And do not forget, Saturday, July 6th, Bright Side of the Sun Solar Panel, and Fanning the Flames are putting together a Phoenix Suns get-together. If you want to RSVP, go to the Suns Solar Panel Facebook page. It's the only event we have up there. RSVP, it'll really help. Dave, I'm sure you're going to get something on Bright Side of the Sun in about a week and a half or something along those lines.
Yep, absolutely. I'll have a Summer League preview because I'm going to talk about the fact that none of the Suns draft picks except Jalen LeCue will even be eligible for their first Summer League game on July 5th because of the trade situation in the league year not starting until the 6th.
I can't believe they didn't fix that, man.
Isn't that ridiculous? So there were how many draft picks traded, like part of trades, and on
can't play. It doesn't,
and none of them can be final. Most of them cannot be final until July 6th.
Stupid. But hey, it was great chatting with you, and now let's go ahead and get on Mr. John Bloom.